that's not the kind of salt that he's calling us to be. The kind of salt that he's calling us to be is an influence. So how many of you know, quite often when you properly season something, you don't even know that it's got salt in it. But when you taste it, when you partake of it, you know that it's been properly seasoned. I believe that that's the kind of influence that we're supposed to have in culture. Not that there are times when we don't speak up about issues, because we do believe in that, amen? Jesus spoke up about issues. But that the influence that we have isn't something where we just say things, it's where we live out the gospel in our culture. And it preserves from decay and corruption. Salt is also a flavor enhancer. It makes food more desirable. How many of you know that you can take something that's, and I've bragged on my wife's cooking before, so this is not her cooking at all. How many of you ever been, let's say you went to a restaurant someplace and the food was really not very good? How many of you know if you get enough salt on there, you can make just about anything palatable? I'm serious. You know, it's like, may not be good for your heart, but it makes it go down a whole lot. It makes it a whole lot better on your palate and your stomach, right? It makes it so that you can actually, it's like, I've had some stuff before that was like, Jesus, I don't need just the shaker. I need the whole thing from the cupboard, right? When we lived in the South, that was one of the things that I learned is the part of the South that we lived in, they were really into really plain food. And I grew up here in the Northeast where there's lots of Italians. And, I think it's kind of cool that God put me in another Italian community, because I got to say, I love y'all's the culinary side of things. It's like, it's like heaven. It's like the angels sing. Because I grew up in a community where there was a large Italian population, and people knew how to season food, right? You'd go to an Italian restaurant and order steak, and it came out, and it's like, sorry, I'm hungry this morning. I better stop with that before I get started. But when it's properly seasoned, what it does is it makes the food more desirable. They'd serve up pinto beans, and I'm telling you what, all that they do is they boil the pinto beans. And I like pinto beans, but I got to tell you, you put a little bit of seasoning in there, and all of a sudden they come alive. It's like, woo! Cinco de Mayo, right? The same thing holds true, is that our lives, if they're properly lived, should enhance the message of the gospel. See, what happens, though, is too often that we aren't allowing Jesus to shine through us the way he should be, and our lives just are kind of blah. And I believe that as we follow Jesus, as we live outwardly, as we focus outwardly, that it should make the message of the gospel attractive. It should not detract from the message of the gospel. It shouldn't overpower it, but it should make it more palatable. It should make it to be like, wait a minute. I see something in their life that really, really makes me thirsty. I see something in their life that really, really makes me want what they've got. Because there's something about the way their life lives that's really different than mine, and it's much better than anything I've experienced. I want that. That's what I'm talking about. Because that leads us into our next idea, that salt creates thirst. How many of you have ever heard the old saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink? I got to tell you, in my great wisdom, I was going to prove that theory wrong. I had a horse that was not feeling well. And I decided I was going to make that horse drink. And I was a full-grown man when I tried this. I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy in the room. But I actually took a bucket. I filled it with water. I put it in front of the horse in the manger. I hooked, the bucket had a bail on it, and there was hooks on either side. I took a rope. I snapped the rope on one side of the bucket, put it over the horse's head, wrapped it through the other side. We started cinching it down. That bucket started raising up over that horse's nose. I was like, you're either going to drown or you're going to drink. I was trying to get some medicine down this horse, and it wasn't cooperating. And I was like, you're going to either drown or drink. And you know what happened? Is it went like this, I went like that, and the bucket emptied. But what I did learn was I could salt the horse's feed and create enough thirst in it that I didn't have to force it to drink. See, what Jesus has called us to be as the salt of the earth is what happens is that our lives should become desirable. What Jesus is doing in our life should be like the salting of the feed, where it makes people thirsty for someone who loves them that much, who cares about them that much. If you remember Jesus, he declared that he made this declaration, "Come to me, all you who are thirsty. Drink freely of the water of life, that I will quench your thirst." See, our lives should make people want to know the one who is the giver of good news. I believe that Jesus used this example of salt to convey to his followers that their influence is to enhance and preserve, not to be detrimental or make it less desirable. Interesting thing in this analogy, as Jesus used it, is they acquired